This is In Depth. It's been often called in the past the October surprise, a development that can or cannot have an impact on a presidential election. This year, I think we should make that word surprise plural. All in a matter of just a few days, the tone of the battle between President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden has changed dramatically. Joining me tonight is our guest political analyst, Dr. Robert Dion, Associate Professor of Political Science and Eichelhart Chair at the University of Evansville. First, let's start with the President, Dr. Dion, saying no to a virtual debate next week. He may change his mind, but what is your reaction to that, and how is that going to change the dynamics of this race?
You know, presidential debates have been a fixture of every presidential election campaign since 1976 without a break. There have been times where presidential candidates have threatened not to show up, and they always show up at the last minute. I remember when George W. Bush said he wasn't going to go to the first one in Boston in 2004. And when the time came, faced with the prospect of going and having a debate without him, he decided to show up. So this is highly unusual if he chooses to go through with that. It doesn't seem to be a wise campaign tactic.
And of course, we saw how that first debate turned out last week. And just right after that, we get hit with the tweet that President Trump said that he had been diagnosed with COVID-19. His health, we have seen that video so many times of him returning to the White House and walking up the stairs to that balcony. How is that changing voters' minds, or is it really changing voters' minds as we approach the election?
Well, everybody watching right now knows that we're living through a public health crisis. And very sadly, the virus has become politicized, so people evaluate it differently based on their partisan background. But irrespective of which party you are, you have to be worried or unsettled when you see the president, the oldest president in the history of America, fall with this deadly virus just a few days ago. And we still don't know the full effect of his illness or his physical or his mental condition. And I think if it were anybody else, a person would take time off and rest and have a quarantine. But we're 26 days out from a presidential election with major stakes. So this has just thrown everything into complete disarray. And of course, the word we keep hearing is chaos. And in some ways, it's the revenge of Governor Jeb Bush, who told us over 4 years ago, Donald Trump will be the chaos candidate. And it seems to be coming true 4 years later.
And, well, 4 years later, we remember 4 years ago, I remember you were sitting right out here in our studio with Dr. Kazee acting as our political analyst, and the polls had, and it was about the same time that we're in right now as far as the month goes, that Donald Trump was trailing Hillary Clinton. We know what happened the following month in November. How reliable are these polls now, and how we interpret them?
Well, polling is an inexact science, but it is a science. It's a science of probabilities. So if you have an 80% chance of winning, you also have a 20% chance of losing, and losing would not be unexpected. It would just be unlikely. I still think that there's a very good, solid empirical science behind this, and the national polls 4 years ago were pretty good about predicting who would win the popular vote. It just so happened that he was able to squeak out a victory in a few pivotal states and wrangle an electoral college victory. This time around, it's worth noting that Donald Trump's approval rating is unusually low for a sitting president and unusually stable. And Joe Biden has been ahead in every poll since the beginning of the year. And it's been very stable. So it almost seems like the cake has baked on this election. There still is 26 days left, and who knows in a weird year like this what might occur in the next couple weeks. But Donald Trump needs to do something to sort of regain control of the narrative of this unfolding campaign. One would think that he would leap at the chance to share a 90-minute debate stage, even if it was virtual. to lay out the case to America as we come to a decision.
And Dr. Dion, we have less than a minute now. Last night's vice presidential debate, many people have said it was almost as though we went back in time because it was much more civil between Vice President Mike Pence and Kamala Harris. How did you react to that last night, the way, the demeanor of that debate?
It was better, certainly, but that's setting the bar pretty low. It would be hard to do worse than that first debate. I think everybody took a shower after watching it. You know, Pence and Harris, I think, are both very capable public servants. They laid out their message. It was a very conventional, traditional, televised debate. At the end of the day, even though it attracted an enormous historic audience, it probably didn't move the needle at all on this election. I think the two major players are the president and Joe Biden, and America's about to make a decision, and we've got 26 days left to sort of figure out which way we're headed.
And both of those candidates last night, it was kind of like this year has been. We're separated with plexiglass. Dr. Robert Dion, thanks a lot. Stay safe, and we'll be talking to you soon. You're watching Eyewitness News at 9.